The crimson sun of Carvos Prime hung low over the jagged cliffs, casting long shadows across the volcanic plains. Tara Venn stood at the edge of the observation platform, her violet eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and horror. Below, in the containment valley, the creature moved. The Scarvax. Even from this distance, Tara could feel the tremors of its footsteps through the reinforced metal beneath her feet. The beast was 20 meters of pure evolutionary terror, its obsidian scales reflecting the dying light like shattered glass. 4 rows of serrated teeth lined its massive jaws, each tooth the length of Tara's arm. The colonists who had first surveyed this world had lost 3 survey teams to creatures like this before they learned to avoid the breeding grounds entirely. "You can't be serious," Tara said, her translator chip converting her native Veltharian into standard galactic. She turned to face the human beside her, this Jack Roan who had arrived on the last supply ship with nothing but a worn duffel bag and an unsettling smile. Jack didn't look at her. His eyes, a strange shade of blue that Tara had learned was common among his species, remained fixed on the Scarvax below. He was smaller than Tara, as most humans were compared to Veltharians, but there was something in his posture that suggested he didn't know it. Or didn't care. "Dead serious," Jack replied, rolling his shoulders. "Your people hired me to solve a problem. 3 settlements abandoned because of these things. Shipping lanes disrupted. That's bad for business. So we should evacuate the remaining colonies and establish orbit-to-surface operations only," Tara insisted, her crest feathers flaring in agitation. "That's what the council recommended. That's what any sane species would do." Jack finally looked at her and his smile widened. "Where's the fun in that?" Before Tara could respond, Jack vaulted over the platform railing. Tara's scream caught in her throat as she watched the human plummet 20 meters to the valley floor. No safety harness, no anti-grav pack, just a human and gravity and a long lethal drop. He hit the ground in a roll, coming up in a crouch that would have shattered Tara's legs. He stood, dusted off his jacket, and walked directly toward the Scarvax. The predator's head snapped around. Its eyes, 6 of them arranged in a predatory cluster, focused on the tiny figure approaching across the ash-gray sand. A rumble built in its chest, a sound that Tara felt more than heard, a subsonic warning that triggered every prey instinct evolution had written into her DNA. Jack kept walking. The Scarvax charged. 20 meters of armored death accelerated to terrifying speed in seconds. The ground shook. Rocks tumbled from the cliff face. Tara's hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned pale purple. Jack stopped walking. He stood perfectly still as the monster bore down on him, close enough now that Tara could see the steam rising from its nostrils, the dried blood on its claws from its last kill. At the last possible second, Jack moved. He didn't dodge. He didn't run. He stepped forward directly into the Scarvax's path and raised one hand. "Stop!" The word cracked across the valley like a gunshot. The Scarvax's charge faltered. Its front legs locked, plowing furrows in the sand as momentum carried it forward. It stopped less than 2 meters from Jack, close enough that its breath ruffled his hair. Jack's hand remained raised, steady, unwavering. "Good," he said, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. "Now sit." Tara would later swear, though no one on the council would believe her, that she saw comprehension in the Scarvax's eyes. The creature's haunches lowered, slowly, reluctantly, but it lowered. Jack approached. Each step was measured, confident, broadcasting something that Tara's translator couldn't convert into words, but her instincts understood perfectly. Dominance. Not through strength, but through absolute certainty. He reached up impossibly and placed his hand on the Scarvax's snout. The predator froze. Tara stopped breathing. Jack's fingers traced the scales, following the ridge lines, finding the small gaps where nerve clusters lay close to the surface. He pressed gently. The Scarvax's eyes, all 6 of them, began to close. A sound emerged from its throat, not a growl, but something else. Something that might have been contentment? "You're just scared, aren't you, big guy?" Jack murmured, his other hand joining the first, working along the creature's jaw. "New people on your world. Strange smells, strange sounds. Nobody asked if you minded having neighbors." He continued speaking, a constant stream of sounds that Tara's translator rendered as meaningless, but which carried a tone that transcended language. Calm, understanding, pack bond. 15 minutes later, Jack Roan walked back toward the observation platform with the most fearsome predator on Carvos Prime, following him like a trained hound. Tara met him at the base of the stairs, her legs somehow carrying her down despite the shock that had turned her thoughts to static. "How?" she managed. "We studied these creatures. They're apex predators, impossible to domesticate. Their neural architecture doesn't support—" "Your studies were done from orbit and behind guns," Jack interrupted, not unkindly. The Scarvax settled behind him, its massive head resting on the ground, watching Tara with something that might have been curiosity. "You never tried talking to them. They're animals." "So are we." Jack scratched behind what might have been the Scarvax's ear, earning another rumbling sound. "Humans spent 10,000 years turning wolves into dogs, predatory cats into house pets, horses into partners. We didn't do it with force. We did it with patience, understanding, respect." He looked at Tara, and she saw something in his eyes that made her understand why humans had spread across the galaxy. Despite being physically weaker, slower and shorter-lived than most species they encountered. "On Earth, we learned a long time ago that the scariest predator isn't the one you can't fight," Jack said. "It's the one you can't predict. The one that refuses to be what you expect." He smiled. "Your Scarvax here? He's just a big scaly dog that nobody bothered to pet before shooting at him." Tara looked at the creature, at its half-closed eyes and relaxed posture, at the human who had turned certain death into something almost domestic in less than an hour. "The Council," she said slowly, "is going to want to hire you full-time." Jack's laugh echoed across the valley. "Lady, I'm going to need a bigger ship, and a lot more treats." The Scarvax made a sound that might have been agreement. Above them, the stars began to emerge in Carvos Prime's darkening sky, and Tara Venn revised every assumption she'd ever made about humans, about predators, and about the fine line between the two.